Good afternoon. My name is Austin Ray, and this is my CS433 final project. In this project, I analyzed online versus offline learning using a real data set. So the project overview of this goal was to compare online versus offline learning. I looked at how different factors like study hours, focus level, and retention score affect student performance. I also used data analysts. Used data techniques that we have learned in class to explore patterns in data as well. So this data set includes several important columns that we'll be looking at over this presentation. It includes um, the learning mode, which is even if the student was offline or online. It also includes study hours, retention score, focus level, and exam scores. And I loaded this data set into Pandas and structured it into a data frame so it could be analyzed easily. So first, before doing any analysis, I had to clean the data set. There's a lot of missing values that I filled in using averages and removed any duplicate rows. This step's very important because it provides more accurate data and it's a little bit more reliable for analysis in the future and in the long run. So our first one is going to be study hours versus performance. And so looking at the chart, it kind of looks all over the place. But if you kind of look in between the four and the five, like if you draw a line there and it'll look to the right, there's more dots on that side. So there's a slight positive relationship. Each point does represent a different student. And so it's not a very strong relationship, but it does, there is somewhat saying that if you study a little bit more, you get some higher scores, but that alone does not guarantee a higher performance based off this data that we see here. And so now we look at online versus offline. So as you can see, the average scores are on the left, and it seems that surprisingly, offline has slightly higher averages than online. Offline students do again perform better than students, but again, it's a very, very small difference, which suggests that the the learning mode does not factor into a student's success. I mean, the averages here, if I had to guess, were like 72 and 70. So not the biggest difference. So this graph shows focus levels. We can see a wide variation, starting at the focus level at 40 and goes all the way to 100. In the data set, 40 and under had no one. So I cut that out and we started at 40 just so it's an easier data set to read. And so you can see a wide variation, meaning some students are focused while some are not. Um, this suggests that focus could play an important role in how students perform because you can see kind of as you're going from left to right, it varies, but towards the end, the numbers are a little bit higher than your lower focus levels. All right, and so the correlation map, everything that comes together. This heat map shows how different variables are related to each other. And so the most relationship here is definitely between retention score and exam score. So, so your exam score and study hours is a pretty low correlation. And if you go over, your exam to retention score is zero point 0.8, so 80%. And then your next one is your focus level and exam scores, which is about 50%. And so the most important relationships that you can see off this is definitely your retention to exam score. Focus level does have a moderate correlation with exam scores coming in second, but study hours, surprisingly, has a very, very weak relationship when it comes to exam scores. So this tells us that understanding and remembering the material is so much more important than than just spending time studying. But it's weird because you have to study to remember the material. It's a very weird correlation, but data's not wrong. So again, this is showing that remembering. and understanding material is much more important than just spending time studying. So some key findings. As we seen from the data, retention was the strongest predictor of performance. Focus was the next one. It has a very important impact to exams, and then study hours was the least important, which I found shocking. I thought the more you study, the more your exams go up, but I was wrong clearly. And finally, online and offline learning sh only showed a small difference. And so that didn't really affect the data change much at all. So, in conclusion, um, the project shows that student success depends more on retention and focus rather than just spending time looking at notes and studying or even the learning mode. Um, which caught me by surprise. And looking at using those data techniques and analysis really helped reveal those patterns more clearly. Because I would have thought studying more would have helped my exam scores, but apparently not. It's on average in that data, it's retention, remembering, and understanding. And so overall, both learning methods can be effective depending on how well students engage with the material. Some students learn better in person, some students learn from offline. Um, and in that scenario, it didn't really have much of an effect. It really, the main two were retention and focus levels, with studying not having a big effect. So, thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and